Yeah. All right. It's where we up to? Yeah. So Peites, there was the new Mishnah that we did already. So we only have to chazam on base. So we said even according to Rav, it's only us to walk 2 amos on one roof and 2 amos on the next roof. But walking on one roof is not a problem. If there's a large roof open up to a small roof, so we say you can carry on the large roof and not on the small roof. And if there's no fence on the small roof, then the people on the large can even walk on the small roof. And then this is a continuation. Now this is what we're up to. If one house builds a ladder, right? So we said you basically have, let's say, a row of townhouses or any houses in a chutzner or whatever it is, right? So that was our whole issue. Are you allowed to carry from the roof of one house to the other house? Yeah. So we said that you're not allowed to. But if one guy,
sorry, where are you?
Well, we're going to be on Peites on the base, 4 lines from the bottom. We said if one house builds a ladder going up to the roof and nobody else does, then it shows that he's the one that wants to hang out on the roof and nobody else. So therefore he's allowed to walk on all the roofs. And then we said the same thing if a guy builds a second story onto his house. He's always that guy. There's always that guy that he just builds onto his house illegally, legally, whatever it is, but he builds onto his house, and now he has access to all the roofs. If nobody else built anything up there, so that means that shows that he wants the roofs and nobody else, right? And then that's where we're holding. That's where we're holding in tonight. So that's 4 lines up in the bottom. Omer Abaya, right? So Bana Aliyah Al Gozah, it's my grandmother's yard sale, which is why I had to do it early. Bina Bas Tzviyako, my father's mother. Yeah, so thank you. So Amar Abaya. Bana Aliyah Al Gabi Pei. So if a guy builds a house on top of his second floor on top of his house, Daka Arba, and he makes in front of it like a little entranceway of 4 tvachim, Hutter B'chol Gagan Kulon. So then he's allowed to walk. That's what we just said. He's mutter to walk on all the roofs because he's the only one that shows that he wants access to the roof, right? Yeah. So now arba is arba amas, arba tvachim. Normally we said arba without a hey. I know I keep harping on this, but it's just right. The Masaras Shas changes it to arba with a hey, which makes sense. The entranceway is not going to be 4 amas; it's going to be 4 tvachim. So really, it should be arba with a hey, but the Gemara seems to say arba with another, but the Masaras Shas changes it to a hey. Right? Fine, that's one case. Sometimes actually making that hallway is going to cause him to show that he's usher to carry on the roofs. How? Hey, Chidomi, what's the case? Davida, bottom line, pay test on the base. Right? That was Naftali, in case anybody wants to know. He's here live in person again. Okay, so hey, Chidomi. Davida lahadi tarbitza de base. He did it.
Why didn't you tell him it was 8?
What did you say? Why did you what?
Right? That it's all about where he made it as to a garden. He made it towards the garden of his house, right? So meaning he made the entrance, he put a second floor, right? But instead of making the entrance to the second floor where he could access all the roofs, he just made the entrance off the side of the house. Let's say he'd be able to access it with a fire escape or something, but he can't access the rest of the roof. So now the Gemara is saying, well, now that you built the second story like that, then you clearly have shown that you have no interest in going on these roofs at all, right? Tamar, we're going to say that the reason why he made this second floor is because he wants to use it to look over his garden, not for any other reason, right? So therefore, then he can't walk on the roofs. Fine. Now, new sugya. Can person carry 2 amas on the roof, and then there's a pillar in the yard? Can he carry 2 amas on the pillar? Right. That's 4. Obviously, it has to be. Rashi says it's got to be 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim and 10 tvachim high. Right. So Amar Rabba, my kami boiler. Rabba says, what's his shaila? Karmelis is just a yochid kami boiler. He's asking a karmelis to Rishus HaYachid. We know you're not allowed to carry from a karmelis to Rishus HaYachid. Again, the roofs are considered a karmelis, right? And a pillar that's 10 tvachim high, 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim is a Rishus HaYachid. Why would you be able to carry from a karmelis to Rishus HaYachid? We know, right? That's the basic of Eruvin, that you're not allowed midrabanan to carry from a karmelis to Rishus HaYachid. So what exactly is Rami Bar Chama's kasha? So Gemara says, Rami Bar Chama, Agav churfei loy ayin ba. Because he was so sharp, he was not ma'ayin in it. Right? So it's interesting. I don't know exactly what they mean. Because he was very smart or sharp, I don't know exactly how you define sharp. Because he was sharp, therefore he didn't think about his question before he answered it. No, he didn't answer him. So before he asked it, he didn't think about it. Meaning the Gemara is shooting down his question, saying it's no question. Right? You're not allowed to carry from a karmelis to Rishus HaYachid. We're saying because he's sharp, he didn't think, he wasn't ma'ayin in the question.
It happens. He's working in the world of theory. In theory, can I carry, if I put an Amud there, can I do one to the other? But in practicality, there has to be something in between.
You're saying that he's asking a lamdish shaila.
The lamdish shaila, in theory, would it work? Would I be allowed to do it? But the Metzia says it's impossible.
I hear. Okay, all right. I hear. Meaning he's just. You're basically saying that you could ask lamdish shailas that have nothing to do with the practical halachas. That's what you're saying.
I think we all know that.
Right. Okay. Fine. Okay. I hear that point. Okay. So Ella, so that couldn't be his question. Ella, but right, so Ella call me boiling. Now I don't know if that means that they're slugging him up and saying, no, it can't be that lamdish terutzim, lamdish kashas, right? It must be saying that there must be something to it. Ella call me boiling. Beis amas begag or beis amas beachsadra. If there's two amas on the roof and 2 amas in an achsadra, right? So achsadra, what do you call an achsadra again? A portico, right? So what's the story with that? Yeah, so that was his shaila. That wasn't meaning they're both karmelises. So can you carry from one karmelis to another karmelis? Do we say that since the roof you don't live on, and on top of the portico you don't live on chad rishusi, it's considered one big rishusi, you should be able to carry from one to the other. Since you're not allowed to carry from one roof to the other roof, from a gag to the achsadra, it's also asa, right? So that was the shaila. Fine, that's the shaila. And then we have another shaila. 2 amas on the roof and 2 amas in a destroyed house, right? That's open to Rishus HaRabim. So that's seemingly the same question. Can you carry from a karmelis to a karmelis? So Amar Rav Kana, Lav Haina de Rami Bar Chama. Isn't that the shaila that Rami Bar Chama asked? So Amar Rabbi Yivarabai, V'chimei achar asoi. Am I taking somebody else? Am I plagiarizing? That's basically what he said. You're being chayshin me that I'm plagiarizing Rami Bar Chama's shaila. I'm just asking the same shaila, right? Achsadra loy chazi ledira v'churva chazi ledira. And achsadra, when Rami Bar Chama was asking about an achsadra, nobody lives on an achsadra. Meaning you might hang out there, but you're not living there. A churva is somebody could theoretically live in a house that's destroyed, right? Okay, so if you could live there, so now what's the question? Of course you can't carry from a karmelis to a Rishus HaYachid. So he said, the Gemara says, Im timtza loymar karmar. It's saying Im timtza loymar achsadra loy chazi ledira churva chazi ledira. Right? If you're going to say that an achsadra is chazi ledira and a churva, so achsadra is not livable, a churva is livable. Or do you say no? Right now, there's nobody living in the churva, so therefore it doesn't get a status of Rishus HaYachid. So teiku. So they said they left off this kasha as a teiku, right? Fine. So gagin hashavin the meir v'gag yechidi l'rabanan. So now the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel is going to switch in this case. If you have equal roofs. Now again, according to Rav Meir, we said you cannot carry from one roof to the other roof, right? Everything is each person only can carry on their own roof, and that's it. And we had a Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, right? Whether that means whether it means he can carry 4 amas on his roof, or that means that he can carry on his whole roof, right? That was the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, right? Yeah. So here we're asking Gagin Ashav Rav Meir. Okay, the roofs that are all equal to Rav Meir. I mean, again, Rav Meir had said that I had said you can't say. Rav Meir holds that you could carry on all roofs except unless there's 10 tefachim difference of height between the roofs, right? Rav Meir said you carry on all the roofs unless there's 10 tefachim height difference between a roof. If one roof is below 10 tefachim or one roof is above 10 tefachim, then Rav Meir has this gezerah, special gezerah. He doesn't allow you to carry on that. So, but what happens if they're all equal to Rav Meir? V'gag yichidi l'rabbanon, and one person's roof to the Rabbanon. So Rav Amar mutar l'tal b'kulei. So Rav changes now. Rav says, according to them, it's mutar to carry on the whole roof. Shmuel Amar ein metalton b'yel v'dalet. Shmuel says no, they can only carry dalet amos. Now what's the shot? Rav Amar mutar l'tal b'kulei. Rav says you can carry on the whole thing. Kasha the Rav or the Rav. It's a stira between Rav and Rav. Before we said that Rav says you can only carry up to 4 amos, and here he's saying that you carry the whole roof. It's a stira. So hastam loy minkara mechitzta, hacha minkara mechitzta. There, right? It's recognizable, like we discussed on Friday. You can see the mechitza, right? Meaning you can't. The wall goes. That's the wall that's on the side of the house. We say good asik, and we look at it like it goes up. Hacha minkara mechitzta. But here the mechitza is recognizable. So since the mechitza is recognizable, so then therefore you can walk the whole thing. Shmuel Amar. Shmuel says no, you can't carry only dalet amos. Kasha the Shmuel as Shmuel is a kasha from Shmuel and Shmuel. So Gemara answers Hasam lo have a yoser v'esasayin. There was not bigger than 2 sa. Hacha have a yoser v'esasayin. Here it's bigger than 2 sa. Remember what we said? 2 sa is not roy ladira, right? So 2 sa is too big. That's the size of a karfef, right? So if something's bigger than 2 sa, then you're not allowed to carry that.
Why can something be too big for dira? So that huge houses.
No, when you have some, no. If it's royal ladira, then fine. But if it's not royal ladira, you get up to 2 sa, right? Yeah. Vahani, so the Gemara says vahani mechitzas lamata avidan. But and these mechitzas are, even though, what are these mechitzas for? They're for the house. They're not meant for the roof, right? Lamai l'loy avidan. But on top, they're not made to go up. And it's like a karfef that's more than 2 sa, that was not meant for living. And any karfef that is bigger than 2 sa, that people are not meant to live in, you can't carry it only in 4 amas. Right? That's what we said down the karfef down by on the corner, Sigurd Boulevard and Beach 9th Street, right? That's your classic karfef. That it's not livable, right? So up till 2 sa, you're allowed to carry there. More than that, you're not allowed to carry there. So that's what we're saying on the top of the roofs. If it's bigger than 2 sa, the roofs, so then it's too big and people are not living there. So that's what Shmuel is saying. You can only carry up to 4 amas. Fine. Okay. Now it's a little confusing for right after Shabbos. This ain't a Gemara for right after Shabbos. So I'm looking for ways to make whatever.
Coming on what we just did.
What? No. Coming now, it gets a little easier, I think. Right? Itmar, Sfina, right? A ship, a boat. Can you carry on a boat? So Rav Amar mutar l'tal b'kulei. Rav says you're allowed to carry on the whole. You're allowed to carry on the whole boat. Shmuel Amar ein metalton b'yel v'dalet. Shmuel says you can only carry up to 4 amas. What's a pshat? Rav Amar mutar l'tal b'kulei. Why does Rav say you're allowed to carry on the whole thing? Because it has mechitzas, right? Meaning there's mechitzas on a boat, right? So it has mechitzas, so why can't you carry on the whole boat, right? The Shmuel Amar ein metalton b'yel v'arba. No, you can only carry dalet amos. Why? And we had this way back. Mechitzas lahavriach mayim asuyas. What are those mechitzas on a boat for? I think we had a machlokes about this on the daf, right? What are those mechitzas of a boat are meant for what? So
you don't fall over.
So Rashi says the pshat is mechitzas lahavriach mayim asuyas. They're meant to to keep the water off the top of the boat, not to make it livable, right? So therefore, it's considered no mechitzas, and that's what Shmuel says. You can only carry dalet amas, right? Sounds like according to this, we're saying that on a boat, if it wouldn't be that we would be worried about water flooding the top of the ship, they would not put a wall. I guess it would be like a
Raft.
raft. Thank you, a raft. Right? I'm thinking about Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, whatever. That's when I think of a raft. I think about their things, right? So it's a raft. Right. So that why don't they?
But it's not a raft. You're saying it's a boat, so it's not.
No,
a
I'm
raft.
saying, but why do you? I'm not. Yeah, no. The Gemara is saying that. What are they putting mechitzas on a boat for?
So people don't fall over. I would have thought.
I think yes, and I think
So
you
you
put
mean the
mechitzas on a boat.
second
So God
level
doesn't.
of a boat, you can have a mechitza and you can walk?
So what are you saying?
The second level, you have a 2-level boat.
Right.
So then l'chayra, you would be allowed, because
That's a good point. That's a good point, Parrot. It's very good, right? If you have a
Parrots, I
two-level-
try to keep it from having my helicopter get wet. That's why I have the walls on my boat.
yeah. Marmar b'chasam, mar b'daigus. What should I tell you? Right. So you're right, Parrot. If you have the second floor of a ship, so that l'chayra, that's not for water. That's to make sure people don't fall off. I don't know. I would have thought that also mechitzas of a ship are to make sure people don't fall off.
But
Shmuel
also
clearly-
for water is that you don't
It
get
might-
wet, right? That's ladira.
What
For water is so the water doesn't make you wet.
is that considered ladira? You think?
What are walls for? Walls are so people don't come in, right? It's the same thing.
No,
I
the
don't-
walls aren't so people don't get wet. The walls are because if the water all came over the side of the boat would capsize.
I hear you.
No, but I'm
It
saying,
might-
is that the reason
it
why they
might
put?
depend on how the walls are built. I think then they used to build the hull of the boat and then put the deck in. So but today, if they build the hull and the deck is on top, and then they put a fence on top of that, that's for people not to fall off. But if it's a solid wall, is the whole hull comes up over the deck. That's the hull is built to stop the water coming in.
That's a hull. That's the hull, but the fence.
That
The
is the fence. So that's the way they used to build boats. They put the deck 2 feet under the top of the hull. But
Wouldn't
it
it
was one.
depend?
It
Would it
was one
depend
boat.
on how high the ship is off the water, like Peretz is saying?
Well, I
No?
don't think they built 500-foot boats back then. The Teva was a one-off.
I hear. Okay, I hear. That certainly kept the water out, the teva. Right? I hear. Okay, but anyways, that's what Shmuel says. You can only carry up to 4 hours. So I'm going to Rav Chia bar Yosef l'Shmuel hilchos kavasacha hilchos karav. Right? This is a very interesting exchange. Rav Chia bar Yosef asked Shmuel, "Is the halacha like you, or is the halacha like Rav?" Imagine you go over to a rabbi and say, "Who's the halacha like you, or the guy you're arguing with?" They throw you out on your head, right? But Amalei hilchos karav. He told him, "No, the halacha is like Rav." Yeah. So Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rav Chia bar Yosef, obviously meaning Shmuel's moida to Rav. That's what comes out. You have to say that Shmuel was moida to Rav. No? Is he saying, one second, if he's saying the halacha is like Rav, does that mean that he is what do you call it? That means he still holds his shita, but the halacha is like Rav. Is that what he's saying? How can you say that?
Was the klal halacha karav b'Yisuri Shmuel Bedini when they were alive or afterwards?
I don't know.
If it was when they were alive, then it could be.
That's a good question. I don't know. I wasn't sure. I thought that halacha is like Rav, meaning he's maida. Shmuel's maida. We're going to see from the Daf, from the rest of the Daf, it seems like Shmuel was maida to Rav, right? I was kind of thinking, it's in Yonah D'Yoyim, I was thinking like, Rav David Feinstein is in the next world now. Now we could find out all the psukim. The emes was like that, right? And then I'm thinking, no, he's not going to find. The emes was the way he paskined. No, he's not going to go to there. No, the way the Rabbi Shem gave the Torah to him, he was the gadol. The way he paskined was the way. He's not finding out if he was right or wrong. What not he? I'm saying Avada he was right. saying he's finding who's it. No, the halacha was like the way Reb David finds he paskins, the way the Rabban Shalom paskins. Right? There's nothing more. No, I think. All right, so whatever. That's yeah. So okay, so it's okay. We'll see what the story is with Shmuel. But either way, Shmuel said the halacha is like Rav, which the lesson also to be learned about Anivus is also a lesson to be learned over here, right? It's not like they didn't have steady machlokes throughout, and here he's saying the halacha is like Rav. I mean, so okay. So Amar Rav Gidl, Amar Rav Chia bar Yosef, Umayda Rav Shem Kafa Al Pia. This is a riot to you, Gershon, that we can't be talking about a big ship, right? If you flip the boat on its mouth, which means you turn the boat over, Shein Metaltalin Bo. So obviously it can't be that big. I mean, it's got to be pretty big. It's base of Siam, so we're not. I mean, whatever. It's a decent sized boat, but it's not a ship, I guess. Shein Metaltalin Bo Ela Ba'arba Amas. If you turn the boat on its side, right, then you want to carry on top of the boat. Yeah, so then you can only carry 4 amas, meaning Rav is now moeded to Shmuel in that case. So Kafel Lamai depends what the Gemara asks. Why did he turn over the boat? If he turned over the boat because now he has himself a house, why should it be different than a gag of a yochid, right? Which Rav says you can carry you can carry the whole thing because the walls go up, right? Again, he turned the boat upside down, right? So now he wants to live under the boat. So now the top of the boat became his roof. So whatever Rav says by a roof of a house, he's going to say by the roof of what do you call it? Of a boat, right? Yeah. So Ella shekafel lezufsa. No, he didn't turn it over to live under it. He turned it over in order to put tar on it. Right? So if he put it on, he turned it over for tar on it, so now the walls are not meant for living, right? And therefore, that's why Rav is saying that you're not allowed to carry. You're only allowed to carry 4 amos because it doesn't have walls, ladira. Those walls are not meant to ladira. Fine. Rav Ashi masni la asfina. Rav Ashi learned that this whole thing is going on a boat, right? Meaning this thing was learned like we just said that it's on a boat. He learns that this Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, and where Shmuel was Maida, was going on a case of an achsadra. That what the itmar achsadra bebika, right? I think we had this also a while ago, right? If you have an achsadra in a bika, so what's an achsadra? We said achsadra is how do we touch achsadra again?
And portico.
It's a port. Was that a portico or was that something else that we said? What did we call it before?
We just touched the particle.
Is that what we touched? I'm looking back.
That's what you said earlier.
Yeah. How do you think I know what? If I knew what a portico was, then maybe I'd be.
But you don't have a freestanding portico in a valley. That's not porticos by your house.
Maybe a gazebo.
Yeah, okay.
It could be somebody touched it as a carport.
Well, Art School seems to call it a pavilion. Art School is calling it a pavilion.
I'm saying, but it's the same word as an Amud Aleph. So now it's a different description. It's the same word, but it clearly is something else, right? It's interesting. Okay, whatever it is. So you have an achsadra bebika. So basically, you have this a carport. That's a good way of saying it. You have a carport, meaning it's a long. The point is that it's a long flat roof. Flat is the main thing here.
No walls.
What? No walls. Flat roof. Rav Amar Mutala Talta Bakula. Rav says you're allowed to carry under the whole thing, even though there's no walls. Shmuel Amar Ein Metalta Ba'ela Ba'arba. Shmuel says no, you can only carry 4. Rav Amar Mutala Talta Bakula Amrina Pi Tikra Yored V'Saisen. We had this a few times, and a very important rule when it comes to sukkah, it comes and the wall goes down.
Okay.
Right? When you have a roof, right? So the edge of the roof, we look pi tikra, the mouth of the beam that's on the edge, yored goes down and is considered like it encloses it. Right? Now the reason why it has to be a whatever, what do we call it? Carport or whatever, is because if the roof is slanty, like most houses, you don't say pi tikra on a slanty roof, right? I think in the summer when we were doing Eruvin, I took a picture of it with the pi tikra. right? We don't say P-ticker on a slanty roof. We only say P-ticker on a flat roof, right? So basically the edges of the roof, since it's like a carport, so we look at the edge of the roof that the mouth of the ticker, yored, goes down and soisum encloses the whole carport, or what do you call it? Pavilion.
So why does it help carrying on the roof?
No, we're talking about inside.
Underneath.
Yes.
Right.
Right? The Shmuel Omar, you wouldn't know. You can't say good asik. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You can't say good asik. Naftali's asking, you can't say good asik, because good asik, you need a wall of at least 10 tefachim. Here you don't have a wall 10 tefachim. You just have a roof. You just look at the edges of the roof that they go down and they seal it. Right? Shmuel Omar, he says we don't say P-ticker yored b'saisim. Right? Now, what does that mean? It's halacha l'moshe b'sinai, right? So its pshat is that we're going to see weiter, but he says you're not going to say P-ticker yored b'saisim when there's no walls at all. It's got to have some walls, right? Then you need a third wall. Then you say P-ticker yored b'saisim. You don't say P-ticker yored b'saisim if it's going to have to enclose everything, right?
Is this the same machlokes as we had by a kaira and a mavli? How far we had a machlokes about how far you can carry. Can you carry under the kaira? So one side said P-ticker yored b'saisim on the outside, so you can. The other one says it's just for hacker. This would l'chayra be the same machlokes, Rav and Shmuel.
Why? Why are you saying that? It doesn't help. There's 4 sides that don't have walls, no?
No, but I'm saying over there, if Rav says over here, P-ticker yored b'saisim, he would say the same over there. There's no wall.
Right.
So Shmuel over there would be forced to say also it's just for hackers. You can carry up until the kaira, not under the kaira.
I hear. I'm not sure. You're saying there, I mean, if you only have you don't really have an inside here. That's what you're saying. It's only an outside.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, stop. The balabatish. Over here, the machlokes is whether we say Peter for the yored b'saisim if there's no wall at all. Right?
Yeah.
By the kaira also, there's no wall. It's just the kaira between the two ends of the mavli. So weiter, there's machlokes there whether we say Peter for yored b'saisim. The kaira will be the same machlokes.
Right. I'm not sure. I guess let's wait till we do the sugya more and hopefully remember that. Okay, very good. So the Gemara, okay, so that's it. So that's that. That was that machlokes. So basically, then the shaila was Shmuel moided to Rav with this, right? Because then they asked, who was it that asked? Right, Rav Chia bar Yosef asked Shmuel, is halacha like him or not? So he answered back, halacha is like Rav. So Rav Acha Brei the Rava, his version of where Rav was moided to Shmuel was in this case, not in the other case of the Sfina. Okay. So now we go back to this machlokes, whether you're allowed to carry 4 amas for the whole thing. But Rav according to Rav Meir, who's saying that the whole thing, you can carry the whole thing, that means he holds Rosh Hashanah. So let him carry from the roof to the chotzer. Why can't he carry? They're both Rosh Hashanah. So when I answer, it's a gezerah because of Rav Yitzchak bar Rav Dimi, right? That we said that we don't allow you to go the gezerah Yitzchak bar Rav Dimi in the name of Rav Meir, that anything that's 10 tefachim higher or lower than something else, Rav Meir does not allow you to carry on that because we're afraid you're going to do the same thing in Rosh Hashanah. Shmuel only says it's Dalet Amas, so let him carry from the roof to the karfef. No, we're afraid that the gag is going to get smaller, right? And then it's going to be less than 2 sa. If it's going to be less than 2 sa, then it's gonna change its status. Huh? So therefore, then people are still going to carry from one to the other. Yeah. So the Gemara says then you should never carry from a karfef to a karfef. So maybe one karfef is going to end up getting smaller. I don't know. Let's say somebody builds a house. Truth is, we have that in Farakoi. The karfef's got a lot by Jesse's houses. The karfef's got a lot smaller. Taka. Now that I think about it, right? So saying you can carry from one karfef to another, the one on Sigurd and Beach Night, if you're in the karfef already, right? So maybe you can carry from one karfef to the other karfef, right? Not you can't carry into the karfef. Let's say you're stuck in that karfef before Shabbos. So carry from one karfef to the other if they're right next to each other. So we say, why don't you be chayshid that one karfef is going to get smaller, which is exactly what happened by us. They started building houses and it makes the karfef smaller. Right, so again,
But it didn't get smaller on Shabbos, it got smaller on Thursday. So you know
So you're
what size
saying-
it is going into Shabbos.
Good, but no, I don't. Does it mean that it has to be on Shabbos? Maybe the guy didn't realize during the week that the karfef got smaller, and he's just, we always carried from one karfef to the other without realizing 1 second the status changed. No, does it have to happen on Shabbos? L'chayra not. Right, so so Gemara says no. If it's going to get smaller, like maybe this is your mirvar, maybe this is you being Muhammad in Gemara's teretz. If it's going to get smaller, min karolei milsa, right? People are going to see it. Meaning, all of a sudden they look at it and say, 1 second, why is this a karfef? There's houses in this thing. People will recognize it. But on the roof, but on the roof, right? It's not going to be so recognizable. That if somebody makes fences or does something on top of the roof to make it smaller. Yeah. Should we go a little weiter? No, I guess that's a good place to stop. Okay, fine. All right. Well, those that are going to Ovus Abanim can still make Ovus Abanim.
Tell us one thing. One interaction you had with David.
What are you saying?
One interaction you had with David.
One interaction I had with David?
Yeah.
I had quite a few. I actually
don't forget to send us the picture.
I'll send you the picture. I saw.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let's hear something.
No, I'm just trying to think of the psukim that he told me. The last thing I got asked him was about Avelus, where a mother was in Avelus, and the kid was, they have these graduations where the kid, they have singing and this and that, and the mother wanted to know if she can go, who's going to be singing and music, right? So I asked Reb David said, if the kid needs it, he needs the mother there, meaning if the kid doesn't care, some kids don't care. He said, but if the kid cares and the mother needs the mother there to be mechazik the kid, al chinuch, then that's the mother's job, and that's Daicher Avelis, right? So that's what he. The way I understood him, okay, the way I understood what he said. That's the disclaimer. That's right. So he said, yeah, that's the mother's job. The mother's job is to be mechanech the kid, not in Avelis. Yeah. All right. So, anyways, we should have Besudas Tavis.
Amen.
All right. Good talk.
I get the back at Chicago.
Well. What?
Any information on the Levaya?
I haven't heard any information. Anybody hear any information on the Levaya? Or Zev? Zev, do you have any info on the Levaya?
No.
Anybody know?
No, they hadn't on at Motzei Shabbos. It didn't have any information out. No.
Probably it was nifted that long before Shabbos. So.
Should I find out?
Yeah. We'll find out.
All
All right. Besudas Tavis.